Let's begin, though, with the government's plan to get Canadians vaccinated against COVID-19. The US, the UK, Germany, and France are all signaling a potential December rollout, but Ottawa has yet to announce dates for a rollout here. The Prime Minister blames a lack of capacity to make the vaccines here at home, but premiers say they want some more answers. Let's bring in Dominic LeBlanc for those. He's the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, and he's here in Ottawa. Hi, Minister. Great to see you as always.
Hi, Vashti. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm well. I'm very well, thanks.
Okay, good. So I have a question for you, first of all, on the timing of when your government is going to be announcing how vaccines will roll out. I heard the Prime Minister in question period today signal that something more would be coming in the coming weeks. What specifically does that mean? How soon will Canadians know when they're going to be vaccinated?
So obviously, Vashti, these vaccines have not yet been approved for use by regulators in Europe or in the United States and not in Canada. So there's an ongoing effort as the clinical trials are taking place to ensure that Health Canada, for example, it has a rolling review so they can be approved as safe and effective as quickly as possible. That's obviously a priority. We have contracts in place with 7 potential vaccine manufacturers, 3 of which appear to be likely to be approved sooner than perhaps the others. We've talked about Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Moderna, for example. We're having ongoing conversations with the premiers. There's another First Minister's call tomorrow evening. We're going to talk about vaccines, and we're going to be explaining to Canadians in the coming days and weeks the plan that has been developed over many, many weeks and months with provinces and territories as to how we're going to quickly, safely, and effectively vaccinate Canadians.
I just want to be clear. I totally understand your point on the regulators not yet approving these vaccines for use. That, however, hasn't stopped other countries from being much more detailed than this government has been about its own plan. So I know it's contingent on whether it gets approved, but will that preclude your government from rolling out or sort of announcing a plan should they be approved?
No, of course not. And your question is absolutely fair. Obviously, Canadians are concerned and want to know that the Government of Canada, with provinces and territories, have a plan to safely, swiftly make these vaccines available once they're approved. And that plan, frankly, Vashti, has been in the works for many, many months. We have senior Canadian military personnel, for example, working across the Government of Canada, working with provinces and territories. It's a conversation that's been ongoing because the planning has to be very extensive. I'm very confident that we'll have an efficient, safe, and effective way to roll out these vaccines across the country. But that'll be the subject, again, of a discussion with premiers and the Prime Minister tomorrow evening. And we're going to, in the coming days and weeks, be very clear with Canadians what the plan is from the Government of Canada's perspective, but also, of course, with provinces and territories. You're correct. We don't need to wait for the approvals to reassure Canadians that the plan to roll out the vaccine is effective and robust, and I'm absolutely convinced it will be.
What's the level of information that you'll have for premiers on tomorrow's call? Will you be able, for example, to address Premier Legault's question today that he's very anxious to know the date when we will be able to start vaccinating? Premier Moe in Saskatchewan just held a press conference in which he said that what he's heard from the Prime Minister is quite the opposite of the assurances that the Prime Minister has been providing us as Canadians for a number of weeks and even a month or two. He's saying that, you know, this indication that there's an issue in lag time, that we might be behind other countries because of domestic capacity to manufacture, is something that he hasn't heard before. So what exactly will be conveyed to the premiers tomorrow?
So again, we're going to talk to them about the contracts we have in place with 7 of the most significant manufacturers of vaccines to deliver starting very early in 2021. Doses of vaccines that are safe and effective, assuming Health Canada's approved them. And we will have, well before that, the logistical plan with provinces and territories. So the premiers can't expect the Prime Minister to have details on how provincial health authorities have the freezers in place and where the particular points of vaccination centers will be in different parts of the provinces. Those are the conversations that have been ongoing, as I said, for many weeks and months. The premiers and their provincial and territorial governments have been participating with the government of Canada. So that process is robust and it's ongoing. And what we're doing, Vashi, is ensuring that as soon as the vaccines are determined to be safe and effective, Canadians can have timely access as quickly as is safely possible to these vaccines.
I just want to be clear, though, on what you said there at the end and at the beginning of your answer, because the sense that we got from the Prime Minister yesterday when he talked about a lack of manufacturing capacity here was, kind of be prepared that we might not be first or second in line. When you say that, should Health Canada approve these vaccines, we can expect delivery in early 2021, are you talking about January, like we're hearing in other countries, or are you talking about March? Like, what do the agreements say?
Yeah, the agreements say that the first deliveries, again, contingent, of course, on the proper scientific and regulatory approvals. The contracts say that we will start to receive the first doses of these vaccines in January, and it will ramp up over the months of 2021. But the Prime Minister is also right, Vashi. During the Harper years, from 2007 to 2011, a significant Canadian domestic biomanufacturing capacity was closed. So companies like AstraZeneca, for example, shut down facilities in Canada. So did GSK, so did Johnson & Johnson. Some of these major manufacturers from whom we have purchased hundreds of millions of doses of vaccines closed 10 years ago their manufacturing facilities in Canada because the Harper Conservatives didn't invest in research, didn't invest in science, muzzled scientists. So this capacity went to other jurisdictions. So they're able to ramp up more quickly certain vaccines and get them into their populations. But Canada will not be far behind. The idea that we're going to be behind dozens of other countries and there's going to be weeks and weeks of delay is a creation of the Conservative opposition, Vashi. Canada is well positioned and in fact has been criticized globally for having bought and having contractual obligations for over 400 million potential doses of vaccines.
Yeah,
that's sort of 9 doses for every Canadian. So we're in a great position to ensure Canadians are vaccinated swiftly and efficiently, of course, when it's safe to do so.
Yeah, I'm certainly not taking away from the portfolio that the government has directed. And certainly per capita, you're right, it's among the leaders in the world. But there's a difference between having contracts for the vaccine and people in Canada being vaccinated. And I think questions to your government about when Canadians will be vaccinated, which have so far gone unanswered, are fair game. And to that, I know that you're saying that all those, and I heard that in question period as well, that all that manufacturing closed under the previous government. What has your government done to build it back up? That government was in power more than 5 years ago. Yours has been in power for 5 years.
Well, actually 6 years, Vashi.
So why not build it back up in the last 6 years? Why is it everyone else's fault?
Well, first of all, these are decisions that private sector companies made. What the Prime Minister decided to do this summer, and the Government of Canada did, is invest many, many hundreds of millions of dollars in improving biomanufacturing capacity in Canada. The National Research Council has an important facility in Montreal called the Royal Mount Facility. We're investing money so that by the end of 2021 and beyond, we'll have once again the capacity to manufacture in Canada vaccines. That capacity, as I said, that was lost during the Harper years. The significant thing, Vashi, is because these vaccines, we don't yet know if, for example, the vaccine will require annual doses, annual boosters. Some vaccines will likely require 2 injections. Some may only require 1. So at the same time as we're aggressively and effectively procuring a massive supply for Canadians, we're also building up the domestic manufacturing supply so that in subsequent years, should more vaccines be required, obviously we'll have that capacity.
But that's something that was announced, as you said, in the summer for the future. That isn't something that will help with the immediate rollout in this year. And just quickly before I let you go, that same announcement indicated that the facility in Montreal would, quote, the money invested in that facility would, quote, enable the preliminary production of 250,000 doses of vaccine per month starting in November of 2020. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
No, that the construction that's required, I mean, that's a very small quantity of vaccines, Vashi, and some scientists I've seen have said, that those are the kind of quantities that might be important for clinical trials. What we want that facility to be able to do, and that's the construction literally that's underway, is to be able to produce millions and millions of doses in a safe and effective way. It typically takes 3 to 5 years for a safe biomanufacturing facility to be able to produce something as complicated as a vaccine. So we've accelerated all that work, but the important thing is we haven't let that stop us from procuring millions, hundreds of millions of doses that will be available very early next year, should the regulatory approvals be in place, so Canadians can be safely and effectively vaccinated. And obviously the provinces and territories, Vashi, have a critical role to play, and that's an ongoing conversation that we've been having very collegially and very effectively with them, and it'll continue tomorrow night at the First Minister's level between the Prime Minister and all the premiers.
Okay, Minister, look forward to hearing about that call. Really appreciate your time this evening, as always.
Well, thank you, Vashi. Have a great evening.
You too. Dominic LeBlanc is the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.